Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning, students, and Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the 14th session of the grade 9 of the first term of the session 2021 and 22. I am your chemistry teacher, Sanashad Mehdi. Hope you all are doing good and enjoying the good health. In today's session, we would be studying and continuing our very first chapter, which is particulate nature of matter. And as you all know that in the previous session, we have discussed about the phenomena of diffusion. So we will be continuing that phenomena of diffusion in today's session as well. And first of all, we will be recapping about it, and then we'll be solving different past paper questions which are related to the phenomena of diffusion. Now let's move on to our today's topic of discussion. And as you all know that I have already told you earlier as well, that in today's session we will be solving some of the past paper questions which are related to the phenomena of diffusion of gases and liquids, which we covered in the previous session, right? So first of all, we will be recapping what basically diffusion is, and how the diffusion takes place in gases and liquids, and what are basically the factors upon which the diffusion depends upon, the speed of diffusion depends upon, right? So after recap, we will be solving some past paper questions, and after that, one small topic is remaining related to the effect of the temperature and pressure onto the volume of the gas. Then we'll be discussing this topic at the end of this session, right? So first of all, a recap, and for recap, just watch this video for a while. It contains all those important points which we discussed in the previous session. So watch this video and we'll be back again.
Wow, Vidi, you look sleepy today. What happened?
Well, teacher, my neck hurts. I slept on my chemistry textbook last night.
What?
My friend says that if I do that, the information from the textbook will diffuse into my brain.
Oh my god, Vidi, that is so silly. But what a coincidence. We will be talking about diffusion today.
Well, actually, teacher, what is diffusion?
Diffusion is the movement of a substance from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration.
When you say movement, then this diffusion must apply only to liquid and gas particles because they flow.
Correct. Solids do not flow.
So, teacher, how does diffusion work in liquids?
Well, take a look at how ink diffuses slowly in water.
Oh, I see. The ink slowly spreading around the water. Then, teacher, what about diffusion in air?
Take a look at how fumes diffuse quickly through the air.
Teacher, how quickly is quickly?
It depends on the mass of the particles. Lighter particles move faster, while particles with more mass move more slowly, even at the same temperature.
I see. So, lighter particles diffuse faster and heavier particles diffuse more slowly?
Correct. And don't forget that temperature will also greatly affect the diffusion rate as well.
I know. At high temperatures, particles move faster, so they diffuse faster. At low temperatures, particles move more slowly, so they diffuse more slowly.
That's right. Looks like you have understood the concept of diffusion pretty fast. How about a simple quiz?
Bring it on.
So I hope you all enjoyed the video, and all your concepts related to the diffusion are now refreshed again. And as you see in the video that they discuss about, first of all, what diffusion is, how you define the diffusion, and then they discuss about the two factors upon which the speed of the diffusion depends upon, right? So here are the key points of the videos, or you can say that the key points related to the diffusion and the factors affecting the diffusion which we have discussed up till right now. So here it is saying that diffusion is the movement of the particles from the region of higher concentration to the lower concentration. So this is basically how you define the diffusion. And in the second point, they are giving you the example, just like aromas. Aromas mean smell. From the perfume spreading in a room, and the color from the tea spreading in the solution are examples of diffusion in the daily life. Right, so they are discussing two examples, one from the diffusion of gases, which is related to perfumes, and one from the diffusion of liquids. They are giving the example of tea. In the third point, they are telling you about the factor on which the speed of diffusion depends, and it is saying that gases with a low molecular mass, right, diffuse faster, and the gases with higher molecular mass diffuse slowly. So that was the first factor upon which the speed of diffusion depends. Similarly, there is another factor related to the temperature, and it is saying that the higher the temperature, the higher the rate of diffusion. Right, more the temperature, then more will be the kinetic energy, and more the kinetic energy, the higher will be the speed of diffusion. Similarly, in the last point, they are saying that they are comparing the liquids and gases, diffusion in liquids and gases. So we have discussed in the previous session that diffusion of gases is faster than the liquids. Why? Because gases have high kinetic energy, right? Their particles move randomly in all the directions. So that's why they move very fast. But in liquids, the kinetic energy is very low in comparison to gases. That's why the particles move slowly, due to which the diffusion speed in the liquid is lower than gas. Now, let's come on to some of the past paper questions related to this topic of diffusion. So now we'll be going to discuss questions, different types of questions one by one. Here is the first question. It is saying that when you stir a lump of sugar in water, the sugar dissolves and disappears, right? And then it is saying that explain the process of dissolving, explain this process of dissolving in terms of movement of the particles, that is kinetic particle theory. All of you are most familiar with the kinetic particle theory, which we have discussed in the very earlier session. Which were related, which tells you about the properties of solid, liquid, and gases, and which tells you about the movement of the particles, right? So here it is saying that when you put a lump of sugar in water, so what happens after some time, that sugar gas starts dissolving in water, and after some time it gas disappears. So you have to explain this whole phenomena in terms of kinetic particle theory. So what happens is that when you add the sugar in the beaker, right? So what happens, first of all, in a beaker, when you are adding, for example, here it is your water, and when you add this, for example, this is the sugar, and you add this sugar into this water, then what will happen? First of all, the lump of the sugar will settle down. Right, so this is the lump of sugar which is settled down at the bottom of the beaker. Now what happens, slowly this sugar will start moving from the region of higher concentration to the lower concentration, right? Slowly its particle would start moving all around the water, right, in this way. And what will happen, this sugar, when it will move from higher concentration to the lower concentration, what happens, it will get dissolved in water. It will get vanish out. right? Because in dissolution process, the solid vanishes out and it settles in between the liquid particles. So what is happening when you put down the lump of sugar in water? So it was in the higher concentration first of all, and slowly the particles of sugar move to the lower concentration and the phenomenon of diffusion takes place, due to which the sugar gets dissolved in water. So I hope this is clear to each and every one of you, right? So in this way you have to explain all these processes in terms of kinetic particle theory. Now let's move on to the next question. In this question it is saying that arrange the gases according to their rate of diffusion, right? You have to arrange all these gases as per according to their rate of diffusion. Now just recall about the factor upon which the diffusion of gases depends. That factor is basically your relative molecular mass. One of the factors is the relative molecular mass. And we have discussed that those gases which have high molecular mass will diffuse slowly, and those gases which have low molecular mass or low molecular weight will diffuse faster. So the molecular masses are already given into it. As you can see that the nitrogen gas is having a very low molecular mass among all these four, which is 28. Then we have carbon dioxide, which is 44. Then we have sulfur dioxide, 64. And the last we have chlorine, which is a very high molecular mass of 71. Now what you have to do, you have to arrange the gases according to the rates of diffusion from slowest to fastest. Now they are asking you to arrange these four gases from slowest to fastest. So which gases will diffuse slowly? That gas will diffuse slowly which have a very high molecular mass. That gas which has a very high molecular mass will diffuse slowly. So which one of the gas has high molecular mass? That is chlorine. So it means that chlorine will be diffusing slowest, right? So first of all, what you will be having with the gas of chlorine, right, which is, whose formula is Cl2. Now on the second, which of the gas would be on the second number? Right, its diffusion is the lowest among all these, right? So you can add a sign of lesser than, right? So diffusion is lesser. Now on this, now after 71, the next highest molecular mass is 64. The next highest, second highest is 64. So that means that sulfur dioxide gas would be the second slowest gas that would be diffusing, second most slowest gas, right? Then on the third we have this 44, right? So on the third stage it would be carbon dioxide gas, CO2, that would be diffusing. It would be diffusing a little bit faster than these two, and at the end the lowest molecular mass is of nitrogen, which is 28, so it will be diffusing very much faster. So at the last, the fastest gas is your nitrogen gas, because it is having a very low molecular mass among all these. The least molecular mass it is having, which is 28. So in this way you can arrange the different gases from slowest to faster by looking at their molecular masses. Right, so I hope this question is also clear to each and every one of you. Now let's move on to the next part, and now in the next question they are basically saying that there are 3 beakers, 1, 2 and 3, and each filled with 50 centimeter cube of distilled water. All the 3 beakers are containing same amount of water in it. But the difference is of temperature. As you can see, it is written that the temperature of the water was set at 20 degrees centigrade, 35 degrees centigrade and 60 degrees centigrade. These 3 beakers have same quantity of water, and they have same quantity of 1 gram copper sulfate added into it. As you can see that blue copper sulfate is added into it. But the difference is that all 3 containers have different temperatures, right? 20 degrees centigrade, 35 degrees centigrade and finally 60 degrees centigrade. So now they are asking in which beaker did copper sulfate take the shortest time what will happen? This copper sulfate will diffuse in the beaker, right? So you have to compare the speed of diffusion of copper sulfate in these three beakers, and they are asking in which copper sulfate will take the shortest time, which means that it will diffuse very fast. So as you all know that the speed of diffusion depends upon the temperature. When you increase the temperature, the kinetic energy increases, and when the kinetic energy increases, the rate of diffusion increases. It means that higher the temperature, more will be the speed of diffusion. So in beaker 3, since we have 60 degrees centigrade, the beaker 3 is having the highest temperature. So which means that in beaker number 3, the copper sulfate will diffuse very fastly, and it will take the shortest time to diffuse, right? So this is the answer for part A. Now coming on to the part B, longest time. In which container it will take longest time? The one which is very cool, which has very less temperature, and that is 20 degrees centigrade. So in beaker number 1, the copper sulfate will diffuse slowly and will take the longest time. Why? Because in beaker 1 we have low temperature, which is 20 degrees centigrade, and due to which this low temperature, the kinetic energy of the particles is slow, and due to that slow movement of the particles, the rate or the speed of the diffusion will also be slow. So you have to basically also give the reason as well, because they are asking you the reason. In the last line they are saying explain your answer. So it means that you have to explain your answer or this phenomena on the basis of kinetic particle theory. As we have discussed that in beaker 1, since we are having low temperature, so it means we have low kinetic energy, and due to this low kinetic energy, the speed of diffusion is slow. So you have to explain in terms of kinetic particle theory, right? So I hope this is clear to everyone. Now let's move on to the next question. In this question, it is saying that aqueous lead nitrate and potassium iodide are added to a dish containing water as shown. There is a dish containing water, and at the one side of the container, you are adding aqueous lead nitrate, and on the second part of the container, second corner of the container, you are adding aqueous potassium iodide. So what will happen? The aqueous potassium iodide will travel in this direction, right? And similarly, aqueous lead nitrate will move in that direction, due to which they would be combining at this point, and after the combining together, they are forming a yellow PPT. When this yellow PPT is formed, when they move, when this aqueous iodide and aqueous lead nitrate combine with each other, right? So due to which this yellow PPT is formed. So they are asking a yellow PPT formed after a few minutes. So which process occurs before the precipitate forms? So why this precipitate is forming? Because your aqueous lead nitrate is traveling from one part of the container to another, and similarly your potassium iodide is also traveling from one part of the container to another. That's why they are meeting at a certain point, which results in the formation of yellow PPT. So what phenomena is taking place? Diffusion is taking place, right? So they are asking which process is taking place. So it is diffusion which is taking place, due to which they combine with each other and form a yellow PPT over there. So I hope this was a very simple question and clear to each and every one of you. Now let's move on to the next question. It is saying that particles moving very slowly from an area of high concentration to the area of low concentration. Which process is being described above? So very simple, they are saying you that the particles are moving from the higher concentration to lower concentration, which means that diffusion is taking place, right? So as you can see that in the options, there are two options saying about diffusion. Option C is saying that a substance diffusing through liquid, a substance diffusing through air. So both of these options are of diffusion. So either the answer could be C or D. So how have we identified that it is C? Because it is saying that particles moving very slowly, right? They are mentioning over there, and they are also highlighting over there that the particles are moving very slowly. So very slow movement is in case of liquids, right? As we have already discussed that the diffusion in liquids is very slow because their kinetic energy is very low, but the diffusion in gas is faster. So the phenomenon of diffusion is taking place, but they are saying it is taking place very slowly, which means that this diffusion is taking place in liquids, right? So that's why we have chosen the option number C, which is saying that a substance diffusing through a liquid, right? In the option D, it was saying a substance diffusing through the air. So since air is a gas, and it will diffuse faster, that's why we are not taking this answer to be correct, and we are selecting the option number C. So I hope this is also clear to everyone. Now let's move on to the next question. Okay. In this question, it is saying that a gas jar of bromine vapor and a gas jar of air are set up as shown in the diagram 1. Okay. So this is the diagram 1 in which we have two gas jars. One is below, which is containing bromine vapor in it, or you can say bromine gas, which is reddish brown in color, and you have one more jar which is inverted, which is put inverted above the gas jar of bromine, and it is containing air in it. And both of the gas jars are initially being separated with this glass slide, right? So what happens, you remove this glass slide, and once you remove this glass slide, so what happens, this is shown in diagram number 2, that both of the gas jars are now a mixture of air and bromine. Air and bromine gas mix together, because bromine would be moving upward, air would be moving downwards, and they would be moving all around the container and mixing with each other, right? So it is saying that the glass slide is removed. The diagram 2 shows the appearance of the glass jar after 1 hour. So you can see in the diagram 2, both of the gas jars are looking uniform now. In the diagram 1, they are not uniform because at the upper jar there is air only, which is transparent. In the below jar we have bromine, which is reddish brown. So both of the gas jars are not uniform. But when you remove this gas slide, what happens? Both of the jars are now uniform. As you can see, from top to bottom, they have same color now. So they are asking that which statement explains why bromine and air mix together. Why this bromine and air is mixing together? Because they are diffusing. Because the air is diffusing from higher concentration of the above jar to the lower concentration, and similarly bromine is also diffusing from the higher concentration to the lower concentration. So since both of the gases are diffusing, so that's why both of the gases will mix together, and when they mix together, what happens? They will form a uniform mixture throughout this both of the gas jars. So it is saying that option A, bromine is denser than air. No, this is not the answer. If the bromine is denser, it will remain in the gas jar 1, and air will remain in the gas jar 2. They will not mix each other, because as you all know that the less denser goes upwards and higher density goes downwards. So it is already separated. So this is not the correct answer. It is saying that bromine is lighter than air. So if the bromine is lighter, it will completely move upward and air will completely move downward. They will not mix with each other. So this is not the answer. This is not the correct answer as well. And the next part is saying bromine molecules move upward and the air molecules move downward. They are moving, but they are not completely moving. We cannot say that air is completely moving downward and the bromine is completely moving upward. This is not the case. The case is that they are basically mixing with each other. Bromine travels, when you remove this gas slide, bromine does not travel upwards, it travels all over the gas jar, both of the gas jars, right? It is occupying the space of both of the gas jars. And similarly, the air is also occupying both of the gas jars, the volume of the gas jars, right? So, C couldn't be the answer as well, because in part C, it is saying that bromine is totally moving upward and air is totally moving downward, and that is not the case. Both are mixing with each other and taking hold of the volume of both the gas jars, right? So the correct answer is option D, in which it is saying molecules in bromine and air move randomly. because the air is also moving randomly in all the directions, bromine is also moving randomly in all the directions. That's why they are mixing with each other, and due to which you can see that phenomena, a mixture of air and bromine is formed as seen in the diagram number 2. Right? So I hope this is clear to everyone. Now let's move on to the next question. It is saying that which statement is an example of diffusion? So there are multiple statements written over there. A kitchen towel soaks up some of the split milk. So this is basically to phenomena in which the soaking is taking place, in which the towel is soaking up the split milk. So this is not the diffusion because it is only absorbing it, right? So absorption is not the phenomenon of diffusion. Ice cream melts, it is melting, not diffusion. Falling from flowers is blown by the wind. This is not the diffusion as well because they are moving from one part to another. This is not the diffusion. The smell of cooking is spread through the house. Yes, this is diffusion because the smell is moving from the higher concentration to the lower concentration. Now the next one is saying a few drops. Okay, why the option C is not correct? Because they are mentioning that they are blown by the wind. Right? If someone says that they are moving, pollens are moving from the flower by the wind. So why it is not considered to be diffusion? Because diffusion, just remember that diffusion takes place spontaneously. The particles move spontaneously by its own. They have own enough energy which is moving the particles, right? But in option C it is written that pollens from the flower is blown by the wind. Wind is blowing those pollen grains. Pollen grains are not moving by their own. That's why option C is not the answer, right? Although they are moving, they are blown by the wind, but since they are blown by the wind, that's why we are not taking and considering this answer, because the pollens are not moving by their own, and diffusion takes place when the particles move by their own kinetic energy, by their own movement, right? Someone is not forcing them to move, they are moving spontaneously. And as you all know that the smell moves spontaneously, right, without any external force. That's why the option D is correct. Now in the next question it is saying a few drops of perfume were split on the floor. A few minutes later the perfume could be smelled a few meters away. Which two processes have taken place? So so as you all know that the perfume initially was in liquid state, and when you split it on the floor, what happens that first of all that perfume will evaporate, the particles will convert from liquid to gas, and once they convert into gas, that gas will then diffuse all around the corners of the room, taking the smell all around the room, right? So first of all evaporation will take place. First of all that liquid perfume will convert into gas, and after that those perfume vapors will travel and diffuse all around the room. So evaporation and diffusion, these two processes are taking place in this given example. Now in this example, now in this question they are saying that bromine is a liquid with low boiling point and a strong smell. They are talking about bromine over here and saying that it is a very low boiling point. And just recall, those liquids which have low boiling point are volatile in nature. As you all know that these are volatile in nature. They can easily evaporate whenever they are kept at room temperature. In the open environment of room temperature, they will get easily evaporate, right? And they are saying that it is a strong smell. A technician placed some of the bromine in one corner of the room. So it is saying that bromine is placed, spill over there, and after 30 seconds the bromine could be smelled on the other side of the room. So the smell of the bromine is traveling from one part of the container to another. So what you have to do, use the kinetic particle theory to explain why the bromine could be smelled to other side of the room. So in this particular example question, you have to explain both the phenomena. First of all, what will happen? When you have split this bromine in the room, which was in the liquid state. First of all, bromine was in state of liquid, right? It is mentioned in the question. So, and they are also saying that it was having the low boiling point, which means that it's volatile, and once you split it in the room, after few seconds it will get evaporated, right? So very first phenomena which is taking place in this question is evaporation. So first of all, you have to discuss about evaporation over there. that when you spill the bromine in the room, what happens after some time? Evaporation takes place, and in evaporation, what happens? The particles will escape out into air. So after evaporation, when the bromine will escape out into air, what will happen? Those bromine molecules will now move from the higher concentration to the lower concentration. Now the diffusion will start taking place. After evaporation, diffusion will start taking place. And when this diffusion will start taking place, the smell will spread all around the room, or you can say it will spread from one corner of the room to the another corner of the room. That's why after 30 seconds, the bromine could be smelled on the other side of it. So this is your answer, in which you have to explain evaporation and diffusion. Both of the phenomena you have to explain in these given lines, right? So these were some of the questions which were related to your past papers, right? And I hope now all your concepts are cleared related to the diffusion and the factors which are affecting the speed of diffusion. Now quickly coming on to our next topic, which is basically our last topic of today's session, and which is the effect of temperature on the volume of the gas, right? So we are discussing that if we are increasing the temperature of any gas, then what will happen to its volume. So first of all, let's discuss what basically is meant by the volume of the gas. What do you mean by this volume of gas? So just remember this: the volume of the gas is the volume of the container. In whatever container the gas is confined, that volume of the container is called the gas volume, right? So for example, in this container, if the gas is filled, so its volume is V1 from bottom to till this piston, right? All of this is the volume of the gas. Now, when you increase the temperature, what happens when you are providing the heat energy? That heat energy will be converted into kinetic energy of these molecules, right? The heat energy will be converted into the kinetic energy of the molecules, and the molecules will move more fastly with the more high kinetic energy, right? And since they will move with more kinetic energy, what will happen? They will move far apart, and once they move far apart, what will happen? This piston will move upward, and the volume of the gas will now, as you can see, it gas increase. Now this is volume which is more, the container has expanded, right? And the gas has expanded from condition number 1 to condition number 2. As you can see, the volume has increased from V1 to V2, right? So by increasing the temperature, the volume of the gas increases. So we can say that volume of the gas is directly proportional to temperature, right? When the temperature increases, the volume of the gas also increases. Now similarly, we have to see the relationship of the volume of the gas with the pressure as well. So in the next slide, we are comparing the volume of the gas with pressure. So as you can see in the diagram in the first figure, the particles are far apart from each other, and you have this volume. So you have a higher volume right now, which is this V1, right? V1. This is whole volume of the gas. But when you apply the pressure, right? When you apply the pressure, when you apply the force from the top to the top of the piston, right? So what happens? The gas will get compressed, right? Because why the gas is compressing? Because the particles have a lot of empty space in between them. You can see there is a lot of empty space. So when you will apply the pressure, the particles will come closer to each other. And once the particles will come closer to each other, what happens? As you can see in the diagram, the volume of the gas is decreased now, right? So it means that the pressure and the volume are inversely proportional to each other. So volume of the gas is inversely proportional to pressure, right? So the temperature and volume are directly proportional, but the pressure and volume are inversely proportional to each other, right? So this was the effect of pressure and temperature onto the volume. I hope this is also clear to each and every one of you. So we are officially winding up our today's session. Meet you in the next class If you have any queries or any questions, you may ask in the comment section. And up till then, take care and Allah Hafiz.